For 10 years she fed him, bathed him, and carried his pain as if it were her own. Then one night, the millionaire she thought was silent and cold gave her a gift that left her trembling in disbelief.
Welcome to another episode of Ever After. Kindly comment where you are listening from and subscribe so you don't miss out on our next episode. Chapter 1. Morning Routine. The alarm buzzed at 5:30 a.m., though she hadn't really been asleep. Elena rolled out of bed, her body aching with the weight of 10 years of repetition. The mansion was silent, except for the hum of the air conditioner, but she moved through it like muscle memory. Quiet, precise, practiced. She paused at the doorway of the bedroom across the hall. Heavy curtains sealed out the morning light, and in the dimness, she could just make out the figure lying still in the massive bed. "Good morning," she whispered softly, even though she never expected an answer. Her husband, Richard Whitmore, once the city's most powerful real estate mogul, didn't stir. His body, paralyzed from the chest down, lay stiff beneath perfectly pressed sheets. His eyes were open, though, fixed on the ceiling, always watching, always silent. She crossed the room, adjusted the blinds to let in a little sun, and checked the machines at his bedside. She had memorized every beep, every light, every reading. Then she leaned over, brushing his salt and pepper hair back from his forehead. "Let's get you ready," she murmured, slipping into the routine she knew by heart. With careful precision, she lifted him with the aid of the mechanical hoist, moving his limp body into the wheelchair. She cleaned him, changed his clothes, shaved the stubble on his jaw. Every task was deliberate, tender, and practiced, though it cost her pieces of herself each day. When she knelt to slip his shoes on, her hands lingered for a moment, trembling. 10 years, she thought. 10 years of this, without a word of thanks, without a touch returned, without even knowing if he still loved her. She stood, forced a smile, and asked softly, "Breakfast in the sunroom today?" His eyes flicked toward her, then toward the window. It wasn't a yes, not really, but she chose to take it as one. Chapter 2. A Woman's Quiet Ache. The sunroom smelled faintly of jasmine, and outside the glass walls, the gardens bloomed wildly, tended by hired staff Elena hardly ever spoke to. She set a tray on the table, oatmeal, fruit, fresh coffee, though he never drank it anymore. She spooned small bites to his lips, steady, patient, never rushing. He swallowed without complaint, but without gratitude either. Between spoonfuls, her mind drifted. She thought of the years before the accident. Richard striding into rooms like he owned the world, his laughter booming, his hand warm at the small of her back. She thought of the promises they'd whispered to each other in their first home, promises of adventure, of children, of forever. That forever had come, but not the way she imagined. Sometimes in the silence, loneliness pressed against her chest like a stone. She had given up friends, dreams, even her own career, to stay here with him. The world moved on without her. And yet, here she remained. Her eyes stung, but she blinked it away. She would not cry in front of him. Instead, she leaned closer, her voice gentle. "Do you remember the lake house?" she asked, searching his eyes. "You used to fish at dawn and come back with nothing but excuses." For a moment, his gaze shifted. Something flickered there, like recognition, like memory. Her breath caught. She almost smiled. But just as quickly, the flicker dimmed, and his stare went flat again. She swallowed hard, set the spoon down, and sat back in her chair. Her hands twisted together in her lap. "I don't know if you can still hear me, Richard," she whispered, her voice breaking. "But I miss you. I miss us." Silence. Only the distant hum of the garden fountains. Elena lowered her eyes, her heart heavy. She had no idea that in that moment his gaze lingered on her longer than usual, his fingers twitching ever so slightly against the armrest.
If you were in Elena's place giving 10 years of your life to someone who never says thank you, would you keep going out of love? Or would you walk away to save yourself? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your heart.
Chapter 3. Night Shadows. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that pressed against the skin. Elena moved through the halls with the soft shuffle of slippers, her hair tied back, her body heavy with fatigue. She carried a blanket over her arm, the one she always used to cover Richard when the nights grew cold. The bedroom door was cracked. She pushed it open gently, the faint glow of a bedside lamp spilling across the room. Richard lay where she had left him hours ago, his body still, his chest rising and falling in slow, steady rhythm. Elena draped the blanket over him, her hands pausing on his chest. For a moment she allowed herself to study his face, the man she once knew so well. Strong jawline, now lined with age, eyes that used to dance with mischief, now vacant. A sigh escaped her. 10 years, she whispered, and not once have I known if you even notice. She started to turn, but something made her stop. His eyes. They weren't staring blankly at the ceiling as usual. They were fixed on her. Her heart thudded. She leaned closer. Richard? His gaze didn't waver. Slow, deliberate. His fingers twitched against the blanket. Elena's breath caught in her throat. That slight movement, so small most would have missed it, felt like a thunderclap. Tears pricked her eyes. You do see me, she whispered, her voice trembling. For 10 years she had cared for him, loved him, spoken into silence. And here, in the stillness of the night, she realized he wasn't gone. He had been there all along. Chapter 4. The Note. The next morning, Elena entered the room with breakfast. She set the tray down, expecting the same silence, the same stillness. But something was different. On the bedside table lay a folded piece of paper. Her hand froze midair. She hadn't put it there. The nurses hadn't been in. Slowly, with trembling fingers, she picked it up and unfolded it. Her breath hitched. The handwriting was shaky, uneven, but unmistakably his. Thank you. 2 words. Just 2. But they shattered 10 years of silence. Her knees gave out, and she sank into the chair beside him, clutching the paper to her chest. Tears rolled down her cheeks freely now. She looked at him, her voice breaking. All this time I thought I was invisible to you. Richard's eyes glistened. No smile, no movement. But the tears gathering at the corner of his lashes said more than words ever could. Elena reached for his hand, gripping it gently. I would have done it all again, she whispered. Every single day, if it meant this moment. The house was silent, but for the first time in 10 years, the silence felt alive. Chapter 5. The Doubt. Elena couldn't let go of the note. She carried it everywhere, folded and refolded, the shaky handwriting etched into her memory. Thank you. 2 words that replayed in her head like a song. But as the days passed, something strange happened. Richard grew silent again. No more twitches, no more movement, no new notes. Just stillness. One evening, as she fed him dinner, the frustration bubbled up. Richard, she said softly, her voice trembling. Did I imagine it? Did I dream that night? His eyes stared ahead, blank, as if she weren't there. She slammed the spoon down, oatmeal splattering across the tray. Say something. Move. Blink. Anything. Don't you dare do this to me again. Her chest heaved. Tears burned her eyes, but she forced them back. 10 years of patience had fractured into raw desperation. She lowered her head into her hands, whispering, You can't give me hope, and then take it away. That's cruel, Richard. Cruel. The silence pressed heavy between them, a silence so thick it felt alive. From his chair, his gaze shifted almost imperceptibly, but she didn't see it. Chapter 6. The Confrontation. Later that night, Elena sat in the darkened living room, clutching a glass of untouched wine. The mansion around her felt like a prison, each wall echoing with memories of the man Richard used to be. A knock at the door startled her. It was Dr. Lawson, the family physician, stopping by for a late check-in. He carried his usual bag, his face calm but unreadable. "Elena," he said, "you look exhausted." She laughed bitterly. 10 years of caring for a man who doesn't even know I'm alive. Exhausted doesn't cover it. The doctor paused, studying her. "You think he doesn't notice?" Her eyes flashed. "He doesn't. Except once. He left me a note. And now, nothing. Nothing again. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I wanted it so badly that I fooled myself." The doctor set his bag down. "Elena, paralysis does not mean oblivion. His body is still, yes, but his mind is very much alive, more than you realize." Her breath caught. "Then why won't he show me?" The doctor's voice softened. "Maybe he's afraid. Maybe he's been waiting for the right moment." Elena gripped the arms of her chair. Her heart wanted to believe, but her mind fought back. She couldn't keep living on maybes. When the doctor left, the house fell silent again. She stood in Richard's doorway, watching him sleep. Her whisper broke the stillness. "If you can hear me, if you love me, don't leave me alone in this silence." Chapter 7. The Emergency. It was past midnight when the sound jolted her awake, a harsh, mechanical alarm, shrill and urgent. Elena leapt out of bed, heart pounding, sprinting down the hall. Richard's room glowed red from the flashing alert light on his monitor. She rushed to his side. His chest was heaving, shallow breaths rattling as the machine blared. "No, no, no, please, not tonight," she whispered, fumbling with trembling hands to reset the monitor. She checked his breathing tube, adjusted the mask. His lips were pale, his eyes wide with fear. She grabbed his hand. "Stay with me, Richard. Don't you dare leave me now." His gaze locked onto hers, wild, desperate, alive. For the first time in 10 years, his eyes weren't blank. They were pleading. She called emergency services, her voice frantic as she relayed the situation. The operator's calm instructions guided her through stabilizing his airway until help arrived. Minutes stretched into eternity. Elena pressed her forehead to his, whispering, "Breathe with me, love. Just breathe." When the paramedics finally arrived, they stabilized him, adjusted his machines, and confirmed he was safe. "Close call," one said gently. "You caught it just in time." As they left, Elena sat on the edge of his bed, tears running freely. She clutched his hand tighter than ever, refusing to let go. And then she felt it, his fingers curling, weak but deliberate, around hers. Her breath hitched. "Richard?" His eyes glistened, a tear sliding down his cheek. His lips trembled, and though no sound came out, she swore she saw the faintest shape of her name. Elena. She collapsed against him, sobbing into his chest. "You're still here. You're really still here." Chapter 8. A Night Together. Elena didn't leave his side. Not that night. She set up a cot beside his bed, her hand never leaving his. The monitor hummed softly, steady now, but she couldn't shake the terror of almost losing him. Hours passed, but she didn't sleep. She talked, really talked, as if they had never lost 10 years. "Do you know what I missed most?" she whispered in the dark. "It wasn't the trips or the houses or the money. It was the way you'd look at me across a crowded room, like I was the only one there." She squeezed his hand, searching his eyes. "Do you still feel that way? Even now?" His eyelids fluttered, and the faintest pressure of his grip answered her. Her tears returned, but this time they were warm, healing. "You've been my whole world, Richard," she confessed. "Even when I thought I was invisible to you, even when I hated myself for staying, you are my world." In the silence that followed, his hand stayed wrapped around hers, fragile yet unbreakable. By dawn, she realized something had shifted. They weren't husband and nurse anymore. They weren't just caretakers and patients. They were two souls, locked together in a fight to keep love alive. And for the first time in 10 years, Elena didn't feel alone. Chapter 9. The Journal. 2 weeks after the night of the health scare, the household began to settle again. Nurses came and went, the machines hummed steadily, and Elena's days followed their familiar rhythm. But something inside her had changed. She found herself searching for traces of him, proof that he was reaching out more often than she thought. And then, one afternoon, while tidying the old oak desk in the corner of his room, she discovered a leather-bound journal. It was tucked beneath a pile of unused envelopes, worn and frayed as though handled often. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. The handwriting was uneven, shaky, but his. Day 1. She doesn't know I hear her. She thinks I'm gone. God, how do I tell her I'm still here? Elena's heart lurched. She turned the page. Day 187. She laughs with the nurse sometimes. I wish I could make her laugh like that again. Her eyes blurred with tears. Page after page, his thoughts poured out. The frustration of his still body, the ache of watching her carry the weight alone, the torment of not being able to tell her he noticed everything. And then one entry stopped her cold. Day 763. I never told her the truth about the accident. It wasn't just fate. I was on the phone. I was distracted. If she knew, would she still love me? Or would she leave? Elena's breath caught in her chest. She sank into the chair, journal clutched tight. 10 years of questions, answered in ink. 10 years of silence, broken by trembling words she was never meant to find. She looked at him, lying in his chair, his eyes meeting hers. Richard, she whispered, voice breaking, you've been here all along. A tear slid down his cheek. Chapter 10. The Confession. That night, Elena sat by his side, the journal resting on her lap. Her heart was heavy with everything she had read, but also light, lighter than it had been in years. I found it, she said softly. Your journal. His eyes widened, a flicker of fear and shame crossing his face. She leaned closer. You thought I wouldn't still love you if I knew the truth? That you were distracted the night of the crash? His eyelids closed slowly, a tear rolling down, as if to say yes. Elena reached for his hand. Richard, you fool. Do you think that's why I stayed? Out of pity? Out of guilt? Her voice cracked. I stayed because I love you. Because even when you were silent, you were still my Richard. For a long moment, the room was still. Then, with agonizing slowness, he moved his lips. 2 words, faint but clear. I'm sorry. Her breath hitched. 10 years of waiting, 10 years of prayers, and those words came like a flood. She pressed his hand to her cheek, sobbing. I forgive you. I forgave you years ago. All I ever wanted was this, your voice, your truth. And for the first time in 10 years, silence didn't feel like absence. It felt like peace. Chapter 11. Morning light. The morning sun spilled through the wide windows, softening the cold edges of the mansion. Elena wheeled Richard to the patio, where roses bloomed in shades of crimson and ivory. It was the first time in years she had taken him outside without the nurses. Remember these? She asked, touching the petals. You planted them for me the year we married. You said they'd remind us that even beauty has thorns. His lips twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. His eyes glimmered with memory. She laughed softly. Oh, don't look at me like that. You were always the poet, not me. For a moment, she swore she saw it, a spark of amusement in his gaze. She placed a single bloom in his lap and whispered, still beautiful after all this time, just like us. A breeze stirred, carrying the scent of roses, and for the first time in years, Elena didn't feel like a nurse on duty. She felt like a wife, sitting in a garden with her husband. That afternoon, Elena decided to read aloud from his old favorite novels. She sat beside him with the book open, but her dramatic way of voicing the characters quickly sent her into fits of laughter. "And then," she said in an exaggerated, booming voice, "the hero declared his undying love." She slapped her thigh, chuckling. "Honestly, who writes like this?" Richard's shoulders shifted. A sound, a faint, raspy chuckle, escaped his throat. Elena froze. "Richard?" Another shaky breath, then another. It wasn't strong, but it was unmistakable. Laughter. Her eyes filled with tears, and she dropped the book, clutching his hand. "You laughed. After all these years, you laughed." His gaze locked onto hers, warm and alive. She wiped her cheeks, smiling through the tears. "You still think I'm ridiculous, don't you?" He blinked once, deliberate. Yes. They both laughed again, hers ringing, his fragile but real. It was the smallest thing, a shared moment of silliness, but it felt like the world had shifted. That night, as she tucked a blanket around him, she whispered, "Do you know what I realized today? We're still us. Maybe broken, maybe different, but still us." And his faint grip on her fingers told her he felt it too. Chapter 12. The Family's Accusation. It was a Sunday afternoon when Richard's sister, Margaret, came to visit. She rarely appeared at the mansion, her guilt wrapped in expensive perfume and sharp words. She stood in the doorway of Richard's room, her eyes sweeping over him, then landing on Elena. 10 years, and nothing has changed, she muttered. "Except you, Elena. You look tired." Elena forced a smile. "Caring for someone changes you. But it's worth it." Margaret's lips thinned. "Worth it? Or convenient? You've had control of his estate all these years, the money, the house. Tell me, how much of this is love and how much is comfort?" The words hit like a slap. Elena's face burned. "You think I stayed for money? Do you know what it's like to wake up every day praying he'll speak, praying he'll live? Money doesn't keep you warm at night." Margaret scoffed. "You're not a saint. If Richard could speak, maybe he'd tell us the truth. Maybe he'd say he wants someone else making his choices." Elena's hands trembled. She looked at Richard, whose eyes darted between them, panic flickering in his gaze. "Tell her," Elena pleaded. "Tell her why I stayed. Tell her you still need me." But no sound came. No grip of reassurance, just silence. Her heart cracked. After everything, after the journal, the laughter, he said nothing. Margaret's cold smile widened. "Exactly what I thought." She turned on her heel and left. Elena stood frozen, staring at Richard. "Why didn't you say something?" Her voice broke. "Why didn't you defend me?" His eyes pleaded, but at that moment she couldn't see it. All she saw was silence. She fled the room, tears streaming, the fragile bond shattering in her chest. That night, Elena packed a small suitcase. The weight of Margaret's words and Richard's silence pressed down like stone. 10 years of sacrifice, and still, doubts lingered. His family's, even her own. She stood in the doorway of their bedroom, looking at him one last time. He lay in his chair, eyes wide, as though he knew what she was about to do. "I don't know if I can do this anymore," she whispered. Her voice was hoarse from crying. "I gave you everything, Richard. My youth, my dreams, my love. And still I'm questioned. Still, I'm doubted. Even by you." Her hands shook on the suitcase handle. "All I ever wanted was for you to see me, to say my name, to tell me I mattered as much as you did to me." A tear slid down his cheek, but Elena turned away. Maybe Margaret is right. Maybe I've been fooling myself all these years. She walked out, the sound of the door closing echoing like thunder in the silent house. Richard's heart pounded in his chest. His body, so long his prison, felt like it was burning. He wanted to scream, to beg, to chase after her, but all he could do was weep. For the first time in 10 years, Elena wasn't under the same roof, and he had no way of knowing if she'd come back. Chapter 13. Elena's Solitude. Elena checked into a small inn on the edge of town. The room was plain, cream walls, a stiff bed, the faint hum of traffic outside. She sat by the window staring at the suitcase she hadn't bothered to unpack. For the first time in 10 years, she wasn't tethered to the machines, the nurses, the endless routine. The silence was different here, lighter, but emptier. She ran her hands through her hair. "Who am I without him?" she whispered. Her mind replayed Margaret's words. "You've had control of his estate all these years, money, comfort." Elena's chest tightened. Is that what they all think? That I wasted my life on a bank account? But beneath the anger was a deeper wound. Richard's silence. She could forgive the accident. She could forgive the years of immobility. But not the feeling of being invisible when she needed him most. Her tears fell freely. I wanted him to fight for me. Just once. She turned off the light and crawled into bed, clutching the pillow as if it could replace the man she had loved for so long. Sleep didn't come easily. Dreams of the mansion, the journal, and his silent gaze haunted her until dawn. Back at the mansion, Richard lay in his chair, his body trembling with a rage and desperation he hadn't felt in years. The journal rested on his lap, open to the words Elena had read. If she knew, would she still love me? She had known. She had forgiven him. She had stayed. And now, because of his silence, she was gone. Something broke inside him, not bone, not muscle, but the iron cage of fear that had kept him prisoner. His lips moved, forcing sound through rusted pathways. It was raw, painful, but real. Nah. His nurse, startled, dropped her clipboard. "Mr. Stanton, did you just—" He gasped, forcing air through lungs that hadn't carried words in years. Nah. The nurse's eyes widened with tears. You spoke. You spoke. Richard's eyes burned, his whole being trembling. He gestured frantically toward the phone on the desk. With shaky hands, the nurse placed it in front of him. It took all his strength to press a single button on the voice-to-text screen. The letters appeared slowly, shaky, but clear. Find Elena. Bring her home. Chapter 14. The Call. Elena sat at the inn's cafe the next morning, stirring her untouched coffee. She was lost in thought when her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Elena? It was the nurse's voice, trembling. Yes? It's Richard. He spoke. The world stopped. Elena's hand flew to her mouth. What? He said your name. Twice. And he asked me to call you. Elena, he wants you home. Tears blurred her vision. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might break through her chest. He spoke my name? Yes, clear as day. He fought for it. He's fighting for you. Elena dropped the spoon, her hands shaking. For 10 years she had prayed for this moment, and it had come the very night she walked away. But doubt still gnawed at her. Was it enough, or was it too late? She pressed the phone to her ear, whispering, Tell him I'll come, one last time. The taxi wound its way up the familiar road to the Stanton mansion. Elena's heart raced as the gates came into view. She had walked out of this place just days ago, sure she would never return. Now, every nerve in her body trembled with anticipation. When the car stopped, she hesitated at the door. What if it had been a fluke? What if Richard's voice had been a single spark, never to return? But then she remembered the nurse's voice on the phone. He said your name. He asked for you. She stepped out, suitcase in hand. The roses were still blooming along the path, crimson and ivory, just as she remembered. She touched one gently, whispering, still beautiful. Inside, the air was thick with silence, but a different kind of silence. Not heavy, not hopeless. Expectant. Richard sat in his chair by the window, his eyes locked on the door. The moment Elena entered, his whole body trembled, his lips parted. Elena. Her suitcase fell from her hand. Tears filled her eyes. Richard. She ran to him, kneeling beside his chair, clutching his hands. You said my name, after all these years. His eyes glistened. He fought for more words, each one raw and broken. Don't leave. The dam inside her broke. She pressed her forehead to his hands, sobbing. I never wanted to leave. I only wanted you to see me, to fight for me. Richard's tears slid down his cheeks. With immense effort, he lifted a trembling hand, brushing it clumsily against her face. See you? Her heart shattered and mended all at once. I see you too, Richard. Always. Chapter 15. Love Reborn. Days turned into weeks, and Elena saw a miracle unfold before her eyes. Richard's voice grew stronger with therapy. At first, just her name, then small words, and then full sentences, slow, labored, but clear. One evening, they sat in the garden surrounded by the roses he had planted so many years ago. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Elena handed him a cup of tea, and for the first time in a decade, he whispered without halting, Thank you. She froze, the cup nearly slipping. What did you say? His gaze was steady. Thank you. For 10 years, for not giving up, for loving me when I didn't deserve it. Her eyes filled. Richard. He squeezed her hand, the tremor in his fingers lessening with each passing day. I thought I lost everything. My body, my future. But the truth is, I had everything I needed because I had you. Elena's tears spilled freely as she leaned closer. And I thought I lost you, but I was wrong. You've been here all along, and now I finally hear you. For the first time in 10 years, their lips met, soft, trembling, but filled with every unspoken word, every silent promise, every broken piece now made whole. The roses swayed in the evening breeze, as if the garden itself bore witness to their renewal. Would you give 10 years of your life for love, if it meant that one day, just one day, that love would finally speak back to you? Tell me in the comments, because I believe some love is worth every second. Thank you for staying till the end. If you enjoy the video, please hit the like button, share and comment. We'll love to hear from you.